to talk about the neural circuitry that underlies declarative memories. And this, as a piece of neuroscience, really started in the 50s. And it was begun because of one man's suffering and his contribution, his generosity. And so the person who we're going to talk about is the patient HM. And when patients are alive, they're referred to by their initials. He died a few years ago, and we now know that HM stands for Henry Molaison. And Henry Molaison, or HM as is more comfortable for me to refer to him, suffered from incapacitating seizures. He was having them all the time throughout his childhood and his teenage years and into his 20s. And eventually the decision was made to have an operation and to try and remove the piece of the brain that was responsible for these seizures. And as is the case for many people that suffer from seizures, the piece of the brain that was responsible was this temporal lobe. Temporal lobe epilepsy is the most common site of epilepsy, and indeed HM had this. And William Scoville was a neurosurgeon in Hartford where HM lived, and he took out this anterior, this front part of the temporal lobe. But he took it out on both sides. And after he took it out, patient woke up, and it was very quickly apparent to William Scoville that something was wrong. And what was wrong was that HM had no memory. He would not remember the fact that William Scoville had just visited him. And it was clear that he had what we call a dense amnesia. So William Scoville contacted Brenda Milner at the Montreal Neurological Institute, and they together described the fact that bilateral hippocampal removal prevents declarative memory formation. That was a monumental finding. Brenda Milner studied HM, and then Brenda Milner's student, Suzanne Corkin, studied HM for decades. And she studied HM's implicit memory, his explicit memory, his motor memory, his episodic memory, his semantic memory. And she wrote a wonderful, fascinating account of all of those years with HM in this book, Permanent Present Tense. We all owe an amazing debt of gratitude to HM. And he never remembered. He didn't know Suzanne Corkin's name. He always thought she looked familiar. Didn't I go to high school with you? But he never actually formed a memory after his operation. And nonetheless, he was willing to play the games. He was willing to do these tasks, these memory tasks. He was very giving. And he comes through in this book. My reading of it is a very affable man with a dry humor, and real with a deep generosity of spirit. Anyway, so I never met HM, and I feel quite emotional about everything that he gave to us and what he suffered for in service of giving that to us. In the next segment, what we're going to do is examine exactly what we learned from HM, which was all confirmed by many other studies of other patients and as well as animal studies. So now we know a lot about how memory formation, how declarative memories are made and recalled. And that's what we'll talk about in the next segment.